and welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Hey, everybody. So here we are today. Boy, I think we've got already about 15 minutes of conversation in before we even started recording this. So I'm excited to launch into this today. Today, we're here with a highly skilled and compassionate general dentist, co-founder and CEO of Secure Dental. You know, they have multiple locations across the country. That's very, very exciting. With his years of experience in the field, he has established a reputation as a trusted and knowledgeable dental professional. Now let's get into some real stuff here. In addition to all of that, the successful dental practices, he's also an accomplished real estate investor. And here on Real Estate Mogul MD, I'm ready to dive into this, demonstrating his business acumen and mentoring others in his field. Driven by entrepreneurial spirit, he remains dedicated to providing exceptional dental care services while helping like-minded dentists achieve financial well-being. This is an entrepreneur. This is a dentist. Now a real estate investor. Dr. Noel Liu. Welcome, man. How's it going?
Very well. Thank you for having me on the show there, Brett. It's awesome. A great honor to be here with you. And yeah, let's get rolling.
So there's so much about being an entrepreneur that I absolutely love. The probably my least favorite thing about being an entrepreneur is saying it. It's always a tongue tie, entrepreneur, entrepreneurship, like all these different things. It's always a tongue tie to get through that. But breaking through there, I don't want to move past this thing that meant to have multiple locations throughout the country as a dentist. I mean, that tells something about your entrepreneurship, if that's a word, right from the get-go. Could you let our listeners here at Real Estate Mogul MD tell us a little bit about how you got started and just a summary of where you're at now with medicine?
No, great. You know, the word entrepreneur, when we talk about entrepreneur, all we talk about is like all the flashy stuff, right? When we listen on social media. But nobody tells us the real story about being an entrepreneur, which is the emotional roller coaster ride. It's like you start off with really high and one day you're really low. Then it's like just up and down. And we feel that every single time, like it's like never consistent. You're always trying to put something out. And that's the true meaning of entrepreneur. Like you have to have both the good and the bad. You know, we started off back in 2012 and this was in Peoria. So I was working for a corporate before that as a general dentist, as an associate dentist. And, you know, we always had this dream that my wife and I, that we wanted to own a practice. And I wanted to make sure that we're in a location where we can crush it. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, the place where we are at, if you went to any major city, any of the suburbs, it was a lot of competition. And we wanted to be in an area where we can actually go and do something and build a practice of our dreams and start from there and be that entrepreneurial, like that spirit there and start expanding. You know, we started our first practice in 2012, 3 operatories. It was plumbed for 6. And little did we know the place that we went into, that entire strip mall was under a Section 11, you know, or maybe a 7. I can't remember right now. Bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there were like 14 owners. And at that time, I did not understand real estate. I did not understand like how these guys have 14 owners and they are like all in hot waters. They can't fix the place. And I had TI that was owed to me. And at that time, you know, we were kind of short on money and a lot of bad things happened. So basically at least got dissolved and we had to re-sign the entire thing. And, I mean, like I said, it's an emotional roller coaster and there were like a lot of negative things as we started, but you know, the key is just keep pushing through and just don't give up. And that's what we kept doing. We actually just kept pushing through and through. And that three ops. And, you know, where we started off, I had to borrow some money from my dad to equip the other 3 ops because it was plumbed for 6 ops. So we did that, got that up and running. You know, between I think 2012 and 2013, we really crushed it. And that's when we kind of thought, hey, let's do a second location. And at that time, I was all about like opening up more practices, more locations. But little did we know about management. Little did we know about team. Little did we know about leadership. I mean, we had none of that skills. but we just wanted to open it. And I feel like all those ups and downs the whole time was just to prep us for what is to come today and what is to come tomorrow. And that's what I feel like. Anything that we are going through now, it's prepping us basically for what's going to happen later on. And yeah, so long story short, with lots of ups and downs, lots of pushbacks. We are at 10 locations now currently. Wow. We were 12. Then we had to cut back. So it's like addition by subtraction. And we did that. And, the 10 locations we have pretty nice and strong. We've stabilized. We had a lot of consultants during the time and just trying to get help. And a lot of times what we did was we had to go outside the dental industry to find help because it's not like you can find all the help in a dental specific consultants. So we did that as well. And now we are looking to take the trajectory really up and expand into Tennessee now.
Very, very cool. So much in there that I could just unpack for days on that certain thing. The last piece, like expanding your association outside of the physician, outside of the dentist ring helped you grow. And there's something that I've picked up is like the group of people that it takes you to make your first million is not the same group of people it's going to take to get to 10 million, right? And that 10 million is going to be a total different group of people than 100 million. So expanding your association and asking the right people the right questions is a huge piece.
Yeah. So as long as anybody understands when they're growing, any team member that one have, like we have, is always in transition. So I call them teams in transition, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to be a permanent team. And also, it depends on the people that you surround yourself with. And for me, the biggest help was the mindset. How do we want to scale? How do we want to grow? Because if you're not fixing the mindset, nothing is going to happen. We can take all the action in the world without a goal, without any plan. We can try to do anything we want, right? But if we don't have like a proper path, it's never going to work. And in order to have a path, we need that right mindset and surround yourself with the right people. So mindset, that was huge for us.
Yeah. Mindset is the number one. So we talk with a lot of physicians, and I was just telling Noel, I'm not a physician myself. I come from the construction real estate world. And then you saw my beauty hanging on the back wall for the listeners.
I love that.
I've got a American made, I believe it's 60th anniversary American made Strat hanging on my wall. I love that guitar. But I speak with a lot of physicians and dentists, and there's this gap that we've talked about of lack of financial education during your educational career, lack of business education during your educational career. And then what tops that all off is none of that means anything without mindset. And the mindset is the very first thing that you have to shift, because you have to see we see our world through these glasses, what we call perspective. Correct. And our perspective drives our goals, our values, everything. And if we don't fix that perspective first, then none of these things are going to align. It's not going to make sense. Well, you're telling me I can do this and I get this. Well, it's going to have a hard time seeing that if your mindset doesn't allow your perspective to see.
What you just said is so powerful, because we have this paradigm in our head that we look through the lens, like you just said. And if you're stuck in your ways, like looking at through that one lens, if an opportunity comes by, you're not going to see it because you're stuck in your own ways, yes. And that is huge what you just said. I love it, because people need to understand, like, in order for your mindset to work, you need to expand and go to the zone where it's feeling uncomfortable and learn that area. Because if we are programmed, like since childhood, we are programmed to do stuff in a certain way. And then once that paradigm and that program, we keep growing up with it, gets reinforced. And later on, now you want to do something huge or something big. We get lost in a transition because we cannot see the opportunity in front of us.
Yes. And you pair that along with this idea of delayed gratitude. And we're talking about passive income. We're talking about business building. It is not, I say this so much, the listeners probably tired of it here. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And when you're digging these ditches and things are falling apart, like it comes in waves. Everything comes in waves, and probably in the practices too.
Absolutely.
Like there'll be one day where you lose who you feel is your best teammate. And then all of a sudden there's a huge bill coming in, and like, it feels like everything is falling apart all in one day. It is this delayed gratification piece, that perspective or that conditioning, like we have to get over it in order to see that, hey, that's where we're going. And we're going to keep going there. I have to keep on it. I have to keep doing it because it's more about who we're becoming on our way to that destination.
Precisely.
Yep.
Precisely.
And nobody can take that away from us.
It's a matter of perception. It's all depends on how you look at things. I mean, you can make it a big problem or a small problem.
Yep.
And once we start using the power of perception, I think that really plays into our favor. How do you want to react to that problem or the opportunity, right?
Absolutely. And this journey, so now with, I say 10 offices went up and came down. Same way at one point I had a bunch of employees and we came back down.
Yeah.
You get more into the people business than whatever product or service that you're offering.
Totally.
And it's learning to grow leaders, learning to delegate and just basically build opportunity for other people. And that's how you grow as a team, right? So that also works in real estate. So
exactly,
when I'm building my real estate team, I need my power team. Just like when I'm building my practice, I need a power team to get that done. You need a power team to scale. That's a whole different thing in itself. And then you need a power team in each spot, right? So how about your the real estate journey then with this growth of 10, 12 and now 10?
No, you're excellent point, because real estate, people need to keep in mind that real estate business is just exactly like any other business. It's not like some fantasy land where anybody just invests and everything grows glory, like you said, right?
Yeah. So
we need to understand that part. In order for the real estate to grow, it needs to be scaled. And when you're scaling, it's just like any other business. We have breakpoints. We talk about breakpoints in business. Same thing with real estate. Like after how many doors, after how many, what's the revenue, what's the team size? Mm-hmm. So all that we put in business applies to real estate. Now, in order for me, like when I look at myself, when I grew these practices, I'm also trying to see where can I start investing that money into a sort of a vehicle where it's going to make the money work for me. You and I, we both know, I mean, there's stock options, then there's traditional vehicles where people can actually go and, park their money or make them work for them. But again, you don't get all the benefits. The other day I was not speaking, but we had this chat group where this other member from the group, he was like, he's all into stocks. Mm-hmm. But, his scenario is a little bit different because he's the one who's controlling the stock. So it's like how we call it the GP and LP positions, like a general partner, limited partner. In stocks, majority of us are like limited partners. We have no control.
Right.
We put our money in with the whatever the institution is. Yeah. And we just hope for the best, right?
Yep.
And then what happens is if we lose money, they still get paid.
Yes. Assets under management. Yep.
So that's where I felt like real estate is a safe bet. It's not a totally like foolproof, but you still need to do your due diligence, your homework and everything, your location, your size. I mean, everything matters. But at least for me, I feel like there is a physical address, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a brick. It's like a building I can touch. I can feel, unlike some certificate, like, hey, here you go. That's your stock or that's your bond or that's your whatever. Right.
Right.
And that never sat very well with me, honestly. I mean, that's my personal opinion. Others may share the same opinion or may disagree, but that's my opinion. And that's why I feel that real estate is the way for me.
100%. There's so many things about real estate that I absolutely love. And I am, full disclosure, I am 100% an advocate for real estate.
Awesome.
The idea of looking at a personal financial statement of how that cash moves. Yeah, it can move as an asset in a stock, but the liquidity of that coming back and the stability of it is much different. When that transfers from one column in your financial statement down to another one that's real estate, there's something there that nobody can take away from you. Mm-hmm. It can be insured, which means that if something were to happen, the insurance company is going to pay you your money back.
Of course.
You can't just go and steal a house, right? There, I'm sure. Now, don't test me out there, all you evil doers, where you go and take identity theft and all of that. Don't test me. But the other thing is, nobody's going to take that from you, so it doesn't disappear. You can leverage. Can leverage. Talk about velocity of money. You leverage where if I've got $100,000 house, I've got $20,000 into it. I will show you on our acquisition sheets the difference between the cap rate and then the difference between your return on investment on a finance purchase. Talk about velocity, the stackable returns on that finance piece. We've got cash flow, we've got principal pay down, which is if anybody has seen the fun part of a interest and amortization, where you've got interest where you're paying a lot and principal where you're paying a little at first.
Yep.
And then as this thing, the life of this thing, guess what? That is exponentially increasing your return. You've got depreciation, which is a beautiful thing. And then the tools of how we use depreciation, we can do cost segregation, Airbnb, where we can reduce our material involvement requirements and use our passive losses to offset our active income. Come on. And then we always throw appreciation out the window because I love stable, boring markets. I love places where we know it's going to increase, but my bread and butter is on the stability of it. But it's always going to be
the bonus, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Let's talk about that bonus for a second. If you look at these markets in 10 to 15 year periods, you're looking at substantial property value increases. You're looking at substantial rental income increases. So that's a bonus that we don't take into account, but you surely will realize it, you know?
No, absolutely. That you got a great point, because a lot of times people want to get into real estate, but they kind of get confused. Like, do I want to own it? Do I want to run it? I think what I feel like from all these questions that I get, it's like people want to learn how to manage it. And that's what I feel like, the confusion is. They want to own the property, but they want to manage it, be in control of it. Now, okay, if you're going to do all that, so what is the investment portion? Right? What are we looking in terms of returns or anything else? I mean, all they're looking for is just basically cash flow. Yeah. Which is great. But at the end of the day, you and I both know in real estate, cash flow is not the main thing, right? I mean, we're looking at all the tax benefits. We're looking at how to do forced appreciation and all that stuff. Yep. So I feel like people need to have this clear understanding, like when you want to get into real estate, what is it that you need to solve for and what is the goal? We talked when we first started this, we talked that mindset was step number one. Yeah. And mindset is that same way when we're talking about real estate, because you have to align your values and your time with your exit. You have to align your values and your time with your exit. What does that exit look like for you? And on the acquisition of real estate, it's always, you've probably heard before, you make your money on the acquisition. You have to have the acquisition done right. And then you realize it on the exit. So when you have the mindset to fix the exit plan with your values and the time that you're going to put into this, that's where you realize it. And I come from fix and flip world, wholesale, buy and hold. So each one of those exits is maybe just a little bit different, but the exit on a buy and hold is just that, buy and hold. And the money is made in the asset management piece of that. Exactly. How much time can you put into that? Who are your resources around you? Your associations around you that really show you, hey, how can I get as much return out of this property at the same time presenting a property that aligns with my values, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like you just said, so when we talk about that portion, we need to start thinking about trading time for money, right? And that's where this big piece of the puzzle is. A lot of times when I see my own colleagues that, they are trying to do the single family homes, they are renting it, they're rehabbing it, they're taking the contractors down themselves. Sweat equity. Yeah, exactly. They bought themselves a job. So what's the ROI on that versus our day jobs? And that's something I think a lot of people need clarity on. It's why are you getting into real estate? Not to buy yourself a second job, right? Yep. You need to understand the value of real estate and how to use and leverage real estate and the banks and everything else that comes with real estate, not just go buy a piece of land or property and then, do everything yourself. Yes. So I think that's a big component, like you kind of touched base on a little bit about time for money. Absolutely. Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, and kind of like taking this into the conversation of the mindset of this thing. Yeah. And I was just speaking with Dr. Sogo, the episode before this one of, so you've got your own practice. Great. It doesn't mean you're an entrepreneur, just like in real estate. Okay. You've got your real estate. Doesn't mean you have passive income. Right. So you've got to create the very first thing of getting this mindset set straight on, I'm not looking to buy myself another job.
I'm not looking to create something that I have to do. Now, don't get me wrong. There are pieces in this, Noel, where I love doing certain things, right? I can even put it like in the yard. I love weed eating or mowing the lawn. It doesn't mean that I love it when I have to do it.
Correct.
Right.
Absolutely.
If I could tune out, put some jams in my ears and go out, show my son how to mow the lawn, that kind of stuff. I love that. But the time for money piece, you think about the value of your time. I need to focus my time on the things that nobody else can do that I can do. That's where my $10,000 an hour tasks are going to be. So
absolutely,
the mindset of this needs to be aligned with your values and your time to where you want to be an entrepreneur in real estate and passive income. And then it still allows you the time. Hey, if you like to paint, schedule your time. But don't have to do it.
And especially not like quitting your day job or taking time off from your patients or anything else and trying to do all this stuff done because the new tenant is moving in, right? Yes. And I feel like a lot of times people are, I'm talking about like the rookies, like the new guys who want to get into real estate, right? When they get in, they underestimate the amount of work that it's going to take.
Yes.
And I think that's where the whole weed and everybody gets stuck in the whole rabbit hole of real estate. And when they do a few houses, they're like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I have a lot of friends. They are not going to touch real estate anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? I'll give it to like Charles Schwab, or I'll give it to like, TD.
Set and forget.
Let them take care of it. And I'm happy with the 3-4% I'm getting, or I'll just put in the savings bank, like right now, like what they're getting, like with the returns, right? So they are like, I'm just going to do that.
Yeah.
So, that's the problem that I'm seeing. Like, now I'm not talking about the guys who are seasoned. I'm not talking about the guys who are actually doing deals like really like experts.
Yep. I'm
talking about guys coming out, not knowing where to invest, and they're just going out in the real estate world without a goal.
Yeah. So I was telling you, I was coming from the construction world, led into real estate, and I love, my wife always sets me straight because I started as an estimator, right? I started as an estimator, and I was always wrong. And she would we started doing flips. If I figured a time it would take to something, she was always right on and say, double it, always right on with that regard. And if you think, when I started, it was, the sweat equity piece. I was the one making the renovation. I was a licensed general contractor. I had all the tools. That was my life. That's what I did. And now I would only do that if I wanted to do something like that, where I wanted to go in and trim out a difference. Trim out a staircase or something,
Yeah, that's
I enjoyed
the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like people need to understand that part, that it's more of it should be more of a want than needing to do it.
Yep.
So that's the first piece of the puzzle that I think people need to solve for when getting into real estate, right? And stop trading time for, money, right?
Yep.
In terms of like how we practice our day job. So we need to start thinking long term. Like for me, it was about, I'm not going to be doing chairside dentistry for a long time, forever. Physicians are not going to be practicing forever. There's a lifespan that we have to go through. So while we're on a peak, while we're scaling the business, let's take that money and let's start investing so that, your future and your better half and your kids and family, everybody else can have like a peaceful retired life and not worried about working for money, even at that point in time when we're in the 70s or even, 80s, where we're still wanting to work because we have to work, right?
Yeah. Because you want to live in, kind of got this perspective of never retire. Like, I'm so passionate about like this, getting to talk with everybody on this show and the guests that come on the show. It is awesome. So if we could find that path that allows you to do things that you love because you want to do them, it just feels amazing. And you touched, Noel, briefly on the that generational piece of real estate, which is very, very fascinating too. The idea of, I'm not a certified public accountant. This is just from my experience. The idea of depreciating a property to offset the income is very interesting, but depreciation should always be thought about kicking the can down the road. Right. We have a very specific vehicle that we purchase for the companies, the real estate company that we use for work, and we're able to accelerate the depreciation on it, which is great until you cash out on it. Then you've got to recapture the depreciation. unless it's deployed in a certain way. And with real estate, we can depreciate, but there's this beautiful thing called the 1031 exchange. So in a 1031 exchange, I don't have to recapture. So it's the perpetual can kicker. It's this idea that I can depreciate, exchange, don't have to recapture. I'm going to depreciate that new property. I'm going to exchange that again. And each while I'm capturing this equity that we've built in the property and not recapturing depreciation. And then eventually it's inevitable. We're all going to pass. And then that property then takes on a new valuation where you don't have to recapture the depreciation. Generational wealth at its best. Do that with a stock.
Love it. Love it.
Isn't that cool? Depreciation.
Exactly.
So that I was listening to Jim Dahle, right? Dahle, White Coat Investor. Yeah. And that stuck into my mind so much, that depreciate exchange idea. But it's just another thing. It's just real estate is an amazing asset class.
100%. People need to start thinking like in terms of goals. And that's why I bring this up again and again, is because I was not goal oriented. I was not thinking about the future. I was thinking I was never going to retire. I mean, retirement, like never existing in my head. Right? Or I'm never going to get old, or I'm never going to stop practicing. So, I mean, once you realize the fact and you have the reality kick in, then we need to start thinking about what are some of the vehicles out there, what is going to be the most efficient way to do it, and the most tax efficient vehicle that you can ride it for your retirement. There's
so many pieces too along this, to where we work with high earning individuals, have a certain amount of deployable capital in order to engage this mechanism that we've created to really launch you into a passive portfolio. But there's so many opportunities that we overlook, whether you're in med school, whether you're residency, whatever you're doing. Like, I walk around, Noel, like majority of my day, biting my tongue, trying not to tell people, hey, this is my experience, or hey, I'm doing this. Like if I hear somebody talking about real estate, I wanna buy a house or something, and I look at their age, and I'm looking at like a 22-year-old. I'm like, house hack right now. I mean, this is just get in there, get it done. Right. There's creative solutions for financing. I mean, there's so many ways. And physicians specifically coming out, you have very special loans that you can do based off of the trajectory of your earning power. So there's just so many opportunities, no matter where you're at. Hey guys, I started doing this with my guitar hanging on the wall. I was sleeping on friends' couches, playing that guitar when my journey started, right? So there's solutions. Think outside of the box. And that's another thing about real estate. We're not in this box, right, Noel?
It's a level of awareness. And I think that is where a lot of people get hindered, because it's just their own self-programming, like going back to the beginning, like when we were talking about like mindset, right? I mean, if you're not going to see it through the eyes of, let's take a look at it, let's consider this option, let's consider that option. If you're just going to block yourself, I mean, that's exactly how most of us are programmed, honestly. So we are not seeing it. And when you hear about people talking about real estate, they're just looking at it from their lens.
Yes.
And not anybody else's. So just the level of awareness, I think people need to understand, like if they start having that mindset and open-minded about thinking about options, considerations, and everything else along those lines, I think it's a huge, huge opportunity, Brett.
Absolutely. So how we met, I actually found your group on Facebook. And I love the Facebook. It's Dr.Cashflow, that Facebook group, right? And it's dentist/doctors passive real estate investing club. Yep. I absolutely love that. And that's the thing, like we were talking, there's so many solutions out there, no matter where you're at in your career or your investment career. Involve or get surrounded by people who are doing this, right? Be careful of who you're asking questions to, especially in the day where the speed of communication is so fast. Everybody can look like a guru, right? So be careful who you ask, but at the same time, don't be afraid to ask. Surround yourself with like-minded people. So this group is great, is a great source to meet people that are thinking and doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say one last thing here on this group here. When Tom and we started, our main objective is to make sure that our colleagues know about another investment vehicle out there, right? Now, we are no experts. However, the people that we surround ourselves with, my mentors, the people in our networking, the masterminds that me and Tom, we attend, we are constantly in contact, in close contact of what's going on in the market, in the capital market, in the real estate market. So we have a lot of connections, a lot of network. And my urge is anybody new starting up, they don't understand real estate, they need to reach out, just hit us up. We can get answers. If we don't know, we'll find it and we'll get the answer, right? Yeah. Because when you have like the network of support and that ecosystem that we are involved in, I mean, it's huge. So my thing is, you talk about leverage, right? In real estate, I'm talking about leverage with networking.
Yes. Right? Relationships. Absolutely.
Relationships. And for me, it's all about a relationship. And if I don't have the answer, I will find out. If I don't know something, I can always call my mentor on the phone and say, hey, what is this? Right. Yeah. And that is huge. Like, like having somebody on your speed dial, like somebody like who's done like thousands of, doors. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. And that's where my value comes into the group, is just to educate and make sure people understand what real estate is.
I was talking with a gentleman, Ron, with, Peter Kim. He's got the passive income MD, PIMD.
Yep. Heard of it.
Yeah. So he was telling me that he did this talk or this speech with some younger people, I guess. And he said, hey guys, who here likes to help other people? Everybody raises their hand.
Yeah.
Right. And then he says, okay, who here likes to ask for help? Almost 90%, 95% of the hands go down. And the thing about this, Noel, is very interesting, is because when you ask somebody, why do you like to help people? And you would get, because it makes me feel good. So what happens when we don't ask for help is we're basically like me. I was just said, I walk around biting my tongue all day to share this 15, 16 years of single family experience and the do's and the don'ts. And I fix the toilets, and that's why I want to show you how you don't have to fix toilets. Right.
Right.
So when we don't ask for help, we're actually being selfish in a way where if I don't ask you for help, I'm not giving you the opportunity to feel good. Adjust your lens on that one. How about the perspective of that one?
Big time. Man. Especially if you're trying to find an answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's where groups like this is awesome. And it makes me think, so your partner, Tom, in the group is actually going to be on the show here pretty soon too. But I saw a picture of him in the same room with a gentleman. Do you know who I'm talking about? Grant Cardone. Was he in this?
Grant Cardone? Room? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. He can tell you a whole bunch about Grant Cardone. I mean, he was in his Houston deal. So Grant was basically having this live TV show for GCTV, and he had this multiple deals all around the city, like major cities.
Yep.
So Tom actually made it up to the last, I think the final, whatever it was.
Nice.
So it was great, like having Grant and Ryan and Jared and all his team right on his property site, walking into the apartments. And yeah, so Grant is his mentor. That's how I met him, Tom.
Interesting.
So I was in the Grant Cardone Summit back in 2 years ago.
Nice.
So I invested with this club, and then I met Tom, and then Tom and we just hit it off. And this is what I'm talking about, is networking, right? I mean, not only Tom, we met so many different people.
Yes.
All in the real estate arena. Everyone doing different things.
When I look at my career as an entrepreneur, my career as a real estate investor, there are these exponential spikes. If you looked at it in a graph, and these spikes come from being in certain rooms. Now, one of the biggest leaps of faith that we ever made between myself and my wife is we paid $50,000 to join this one mastermind. And the first 2 deals, we made our money back, but just the mindset to get over that. Hey, do I do my due diligence enough? Do I trust these people? Am I going to get this value? That particular scenario for us, it was. But if you look back over our growth over the years, there's these spikes, and it comes from leveraging relationships, expanding association. And here's another one, Noel. Sometimes you got to limit your association. And for the listeners out there, the old faithful Jim Rohn, ROHN, Jim Rohn.
Love that guy.
Oh man, come on. There should be a subject in high school called Jim Rohn. And that's just
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But you got to limit your associations too. So I talk with a lot of physicians who say, yeah, I've thought about real estate, but I just hear that I shouldn't get into it right now, or I don't have the time, or the market's not right, or money costs too much. No, the best time to buy a house is now and 20 years ago. And it's not to the point where we're buying hundreds and thousands of these things. That's a whole different game.
For sure.
Right? So in a smaller perspective it's a deal is a deal. And you've got to make sure your acquisition equation is right. We pull the emotions out of it. The market, those kinds of things. It's always good to be in real estate. But if you limit yourself from the people who are telling you that you shouldn't be doing this, or just step back a little bit, sometimes, Noel, it's family. Sometimes it's family.
It's always family.
Yeah. Yeah. So just as much as, just as important as it is to expand, we also have to think about limiting association too.
Right.
I never had anybody who knew anything about real estate around me. My personal experience with real estate started really young. My parents built a house and lost it in a foreclosure scenario. I was an adjustable rate mortgage, and it was nasty. So that was my early on. And from there, they had rented, right? So when I told my parent, hey, I'm going to start renting houses, they're like, don't do that, or don't do more than one, or don't do it now, right? And it's just, once you get over that wall, there's something else on the other side of that wall.
Like you just said, right? Just be careful where you get your advice from.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get stuck in their own ways, is because they will go ask their brother-in-law, they go ask their cousin, or somebody who's never done it, who never heard about it, never invested in real estate, and they're going to ask them for advice. Right. And that's one of those things which is pretty common. And I understand. But my thing is, as a doc, as a dentist, our main thing should be our main thing, and always be our main thing. Right. Stop trying to juggle around real estate and trying to find tenants and trying to fix toilets and trying to do everything yourself. Stay on a main thing, stay on course. That's the biggest ROI, and make the money work for you.
So
that's my statement there.
How can that be possible? How can I be a single family investor, a residential investor, and not have to chase money or fix toilets? I mean, what is your suggestion with that?
My suggestion is, real estate, for me, here's my thing. It's a team sport.
Yes.
It's not a solo game. It's like you're playing basketball or baseball or any sport, right? You can't just walk into the field alone and say, I'm going to be the pitcher, I'm going to be the batter, I'm going to be everything, right? You cannot. So people need to understand, and it goes back to the mindset. If you understand it's a team sport, everybody has responsibilities, and you are doing what you're strong at, I think it would be a great success.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull a quote from a conversation that I had not too long ago, that this is, it's a relationship game.
Yeah.
Real estate is a relationship game, and it's building out your network is your net worth, right? And
Precisely.
It's this idea, that's how you do it. And if there are listeners out there right now listening, the first place to go, I guess, maybe a real estate agent who is an investor themselves, who has relationships with contractors, who knows the game, and is not selling you basically anything, right? If they're just looking to build a relationship, start building those types of relationships. And that's where you can then take off, because not only you leverage the relationship of their time, but you leverage the relationships of their relationships and their time. And just think of the exponential growth of that.
You just said something very important. When you go to a real estate agent, right, or a broker, make sure they're investing themselves. That is huge, because, brokers, I'm sorry to say, but they are on the wrong side of the equation. And for me, I feel like if somebody is telling you to buy something, but they're not invested themselves, it's like, the advice I always got from my mentors, it's always listen to or take advice from someone who's already doing it. Yeah. Not from someone who's just preaching it. Right. Yep. So that's huge what you just said.
Yep. Don't be the first man through the door.
Yeah. Precisely.
Hey, who is somebody, Noel, that you think the listeners may not know and should know?
May not know and should know. First of all, my mentor, which I'm going to be getting next week, Mr. Brad Sumrock, and I think they should know him.
Sumrock. Can you spell that last name?
Sumrock. Sumrok.
Oh, very.
He has a little tagline. He goes like, "Some rock, some don't."
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's a good one. That's Brad, B-R-A-D, right?
Brad Sumrock. So he's going to be on our Facebook Live next week, Thursday. So that is someone I feel like, if you don't know him, you should definitely know him, in a sense that, again, passive investor or an active investor. But again, it's all a team sport.
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with the right people. Next week, Thursday. So this episode will record and it's published later. So when you go back and listen, when you go back and listen to this is June 29th.
June 29th
live
at 5:30 p.m.
Brad Sumrock, because some rock and some don't.
Some rock and some don't.
That's awesome. Well, man, Noel, I absolutely love, the conversation I feel like was motivated. Hopefully I wasn't yelling in everybody's ears, but you can see there's something about it that there's the change.
I could feel passion in you. I could feel your passion and your sense of like wanting to help and educate a lot.
Remember the first time that I was with a group called Fortune Builders. And the first time that I sat in the big convention center at the table, and they showed me basically the stackable returns and how I could leverage money, service the note, and have this arbitrage of cash flow above it. I was mind blown. Man, just goosebumps every time I think about that. And that's the passion that goes through. And I continue to walk around biting my tongue, trying not to give unsolicited advice, right? But just think, for the listeners out there, let's leave them with one note here, Noel. If you don't ask for help, you're being selfish. You're not allowing somebody else to feel good because they have the experience and the knowledge to help you. Because the majority of people want to do well and want to help you do well. Because what happens when we teach? We learn.
100%.
What happens when we teach? We build our associations, right? Because I've learned so much from teaching. It is remarkable.
100%.
Absolutely. So thank you for your time, Noel. If you're looking for Noel, that Facebook group is, it's facebook.com/Dr. Cashflow, Dr.Cashflow. Absolutely love that. You can search it by Dentists, Doctors, Passive Real Estate Investing Club. You can find Noel on Instagram as well. Dr. Noel Liu, DrNoelLiu on Instagram. Hit him up, ask him any questions. For us, thank you for spending another day with me. I love this conversation. So we'll have to put this up on the top podcast. Just some great information here. Lots of passion from Noel, and I was throwing out some flair there myself. Thank you for your time, and man, the listeners, thank you so much for giving us a listen today. Any questions, topics, people that you would love to have on? If you want to be on the show yourself, send us an email, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. You can also find everything you need to know at the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast website. Just search it up. You'll find it. All right. Thanks to everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.